Right, so I'm doing a short video here of the ball screw assembly on the Fehlmann. This is the x-axis. What I decided was, after I'd taken up the adjusted the backlash in the bearings in the ball screw, the ball nuts, by pushing these two together, as I think I explained in the last video. I wasn't really very happy with the feel of the ball screw, nor was I happy with with being able to adjust the backlash to a point where there was a balance between how the ball screw felt. It felt a bit notchy, and or I was getting backlash of about 0.02 of a millimetre, so 20 microns. Now I thought that really what I'd do is I'd strip the ball nuts down and replace the balls. Now these nuts use 1/8 of an inch balls, so 0.125 of an inch. They you can see, you probably can't see, but I've marked on these, I've scratched on these, on the outside of these, which direction they're pointing in at present. And after doing a little bit of looking around on the internet, I thought, there's a bit of play in these nuts, so perhaps I need to put oversized balls in them, which seems to be the case with lots of these screws are built up with balls according to the amount of shake that you get on the actual nut itself relative to the screw. So I started looking at that, and then I realised that in fact there are three types of preloading for ball screws, and in fact this method of using two nuts where you can adjust the preload by pushing them together is actually the most precise and best method. It gives the best overall performance. So I thought, well, I'll buy some new balls for the screw anyway, for the nut, and replace them. So this is just a short video showing how to replace them. The other thing I'm going to do, incidentally, is given that these have always been in the same orientation and they've been pushed together, so that the balls will always be riding, in this case they'll be riding on this side of the track inside the nut, and on that side of the screw thread, and on this one they'll be doing the opposite, so they'll be running that way and they'll be sitting on the on this side of the thread. So I thought, well, why not reverse these round the other way, because that will present the least worn part of it. I'm going to give it the best chance I can by putting new balls in, and by reversing these I'll be running on relatively unworn parts of the tracks of the ball nut. So that's what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to do it. So first thing to do is to just remove the ball nut altogether. Now, I've already had this one on and off a couple of times, just as a dry run, experimental work run. This has got the old balls in it, and then you can just tip them out. And in this case, usually they fall straight out. In this case, I've got to push them out because there's already grease in here. I'm just pushing all the balls out. Just get them all out with the tweezers. Now I'm going to discard these balls because these are the old worn ones. and they're no longer needed. This ball nut has 3 lots of recirculation in it, so there are effectively it covers 6 threads on the screw here. Right, that's all. Oh no, they're not all out. There's still one in here, and that's the last one out. Now, I don't know whether we can see inside there very well, but you can see there are, on the outside, there are 3 what look like plugs, and inside you've got they are the channels for recirculating the balls across, and there, as I say, there's 3 of them. So there's one down here, and then there's one right on the other side there. You can see there. So I'm going to rinse this out, get rid of all the grease, give it a blowout with the airline, make sure it's all nice and clean, and then I'm going to start reassembling. I'll clean the screw as well. I'm going to take the other ball nut off as well. I don't need that on there. I've already counted. I already know how many balls there are. There are 69 balls, which translates obviously into 23 per sectional track. So per section of the ball nut. So these can be discarded, but I'm just going to tip all of the balls into there from the other one as well, and then we'll get on, give these a clean. I've numbered these so I know which ones are which, and they're also got arrows on them, so I know I can put them around the opposite way. And we'll then load them up with new balls, and I'll just do a quick demo of how to put them back together. They're really easy to do, surprisingly easy to do. So there's no need to be worried or concerned about taking these things apart and putting them back together again. They're really very easy. Okay, so we'll come back once I'm ready with everything all cleaned up. Right, so I've cleaned up the ball nuts now, and the ball screw is all nicely cleaned as well. So I'm dealing now with nut number 1, which goes closest to the motor side of the screw, and I'm going to pack this with balls. I've counted out 69 balls in sets of 23 into this container here, so that makes it easier to pack it up. And I'm using a bit of Vaseline just because I know the Vaseline is clean, and I also know that the bearings will stick well to it, so I'm popping a bit of Vaseline in here to fill the tracks up. Make sure they're well filled up with Vaseline. I've seen several methods of people, well, a couple of methods of people doing this on YouTube, and I know some people like to put it down onto the screw. Personally, I think that's a difficult way of doing it. This, to me, seems to be an extremely easy way of going about putting these balls into this nut and getting everything where you want it to be. Okay, so I've got all the Vaseline into there, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to fill up the tracks all the way around with the balls. So I'm going to start near to one of the little recirculating points, and then just fill it up. And there's really nothing to it more than this. Not really sure how much you'll be able to see, but it is just a question of simply plonking the balls into the slot until it's all filled up. I know some people use a piece of foam in the end and then fill up that way, pushing the foam up, which keeps the balls in place. I think the grease method works perfectly well, does for me anyway, or in this case the Vaseline method, but I suppose, you know, each to their own. So I'm nearly round to the end here. This first track being filled up. Oops. It's important that your tweezers aren't magnetic. I will say. I haven't been counting these. I should be there now. This is the last ball to go in. May have to just push them around a bit. They're not all as close together as they could be. There. Okay, so they're all nicely sitting into there. And all I'm going to do now is just fill up the rest of the channels. So I won't bore you with that. And then we'll come back and I'll show you how to put it back onto the feed screw. Okay. Right, so that's the first ball nut all loaded up with the bearings, the balls, loose balls. So you can see they're all packed in there nicely. It's an obvious thing to say, there are gaps because obviously it's a continuous thread in here, and you've got these little devices that recirculate the balls across to the beginning of the track, and obviously you don't want to be putting balls into that area between the two recirculation devices. So otherwise the screw won't go onto the screw in that case. So just make sure you're not doing that. Hopefully you can see what I've done there. Okay, so the next thing to do is to well, firstly I'm going to decide which orientation I want it to go the opposite way round. So it was pointing in that direction down onto the screw, and I want it to go in the other direction now. And what I've done is I've turned up a mandrel, and this is a really horrible bit of nasty mild steel, turned really badly. Doesn't really matter what it's like, it just needs to be a piece of mild steel turned to the inner diameter here, which, you know, I just did by calculation to start with, and then by trial and error. This is a bit of 20mm steel and this is just under 20mm. I didn't even, you know, I didn't bother measuring it, I just took a turn, tried it in and to see what it was like. So I'm going to pop that in there now. So that goes in, and there's the bearing on the end of there. So we'll go to the next stage now. I'll just move the camera so that we can see the end of the feed screw here. Okay, so I've just put a sheet up there to so we're not looking out of the window, so we're actually looking at the feed screw. And I've got the mandrel here with the ball nut on it, and we're going to be putting it on. So I've just put it, inverted it over the top of the screw, and then you just screw it on like that, and there it is. Nothing to get anxious about. It's about as easy as it could possibly get. That actually already feels somewhat better than it did before. So that's just got new balls in it, and the balls are very, very cheap. I think 500 balls cost me around about £10, So you know, it's worth doing, just simply to see if it does make an improvement. It's very little cost involved. So I'm going to put the other one back together, fill the other one up with balls and put it on, and then reassemble the machine back up and see how it goes. Hope it's been of some use to somebody.